This is the BBC.
This podcast is supported by advertising outside the UK.
BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
You're listening to the TMS podcast from BBC Radio 5 Live.
I'm Jonathan Agnew. Welcome to the Test Match Special podcast, looking back on the opening day of the Lord's Test Match. India dominated the day after being put into bat with 100 from KL Rahul. We'll get the thoughts of Michael Vaughan and Deep Dasgupta and get reaction from Ollie Robinson and Rohit Sharma. We'll also hear from the ECB Chief Executive Tom Harrison on why he thinks the 100 will be good for Test cricket. So close of play of the first day of the second Test between England and India at Lord's. India put into bat 276 for 3. They had a terrific day. Joe Root chose to bowl first under cloudy skies. It was very humid. I don't think anybody could really criticise England's captain's decision to do that, and Virat Kohli said he would have done the same. However, the fact is that the openers put on 126 for the first wicket. They showed outstanding discipline, really careful in their shot selection, letting a lot go outside the off stump. I think England, if they're being honest with themselves, would say that perhaps they didn't make them play enough in those opening overs. Sharma was the first one to go. He was bowled by Anderson, a ball that just came down the slope a little bit, flicked his back leg and went into his stumps. Out for 83 from 145 balls, a lovely innings at a 6 and 11 fours. Pujara looked twitchy, out of form, and a man under pressure, it seemed. He made only 9. He was caught by Bairstow. He just flicked the ball outside the off stump again off Anderson, 150 for 2. And then a stand of 117 between Virat Kohli, who looked very focused, very determined indeed. Well, he made his highest Test score at Lord's, but it was 42, and he fell to the second new ball when he was taken by Root at first slip off Robinson for 42. And holding the whole thing together, KL Rahul, 127 not out. He's faced 248 balls. He's batted all day. He hit 12 fours and a rather unlikely 6. It was his first boundary, actually. He hit Moeen for 6 over long off. And he was accompanied by Rahane at the end, who'll be 1 not out. So, 276 for 3. Michael Vaughan sitting alongside me. I think, first of all, as you know, Michael, and you'd have been there yourself, captains have decided to put the opposition in, it doesn't go right. It tends to be something that haunts you for a while afterwards. But it certainly felt like the right decision standing down there at the time.
Yeah, it did. The clouds were low. There was a bit of mizzle. The forecast was for the clouds to stay around for a few hours. The clouds did stay around for the few hours. There was movement there. I think probably the pace of the pitch surprised us all. I thought we were expecting a little bit more pace and carry. It's been quite a slow wicket. Sometimes you just got to give credit to the opposing team. And I looked at that opening partnership and the way that they just went out and nullified that new ball. They didn't play any strokes. They didn't go chasing any deliveries that were full. They waited for the odd ball on the hip to just get singles, flick it down to fine leg. You mentioned KL Rahul's first boundary was that down the ground 6 off Moeen Ali. He was just patient, and Rohit Sharma played with great balance. I think you're right. I think England, if they're being the analysing them, the way that they bowled, I did think they bowled a bit wide. The ball seemed to be going through to Joss Butler quite consistently. No, it looked pretty. It was moving, and you're leaving it, and you go, well, that looks nice. But I think they could have bowled a bit straighter. But sometimes, there's not often, Aggers, that we sit at the end of day 1 in English conditions, a batting unit that have batted so well. Yeah. It's generally a 260 for 8. Or all out, and the opposing teams had to face 5 or 6 overs. So to see an Indian batting unit bat with great clarity and skill and discipline, it was a joy to watch. And for KL Rahul to play in that fashion all day, and to think that in the morning he just grafted, and in the afternoon he grafted some more, and then started to get into his flow, and then the cover drive is something of beauty. He just waits for that full length delivery on and around off stump. Boop. Thank you very much. He drives it through the covers. It's a joy to see someone play in that technical fashion.
Deep Dasgupta's with us as well. It's a natural game, because that's 2 really stubborn innings that he's played now. Opening in the first innings at Trent Bridge, same sort of pace, and he's clearly got the shot.
Right, that's not his natural game, and that's the reason why this innings and the last one in the last Test is so special, because it's not his natural game. If you see him bat in the last couple of years, where he's been so successful in white ball cricket, he's striking at 140 in T20, averages over 40 in T20 cricket, and then to come out here and bat the way he did, opening the innings when he knew, or chances were that he was not going to open the innings in this series, it's been nothing but magical. And as Vani mentioned, India are in a very good position, but they had to work hard for it. Nothing came easy. The first session, even though no wickets fell and only 18 overs were bowled, but they were made to kind of work really, really hard for those runs.
Well, two strange things, Michael. I thought that maybe the Root got a bit of a tangle with his bowlers. It was a long time before we saw Mark Wood. Sam Curran, I would have thought, surely would be a pavilion end man with the slope and the. So he bowled his first spell down here at the nursery end and then switched around. James Anderson started down here, then he went up to the far end.
Yeah,
I just not. There didn't seem to be a real plan about England's bowling today.
No, you can nitpick. I'll be brutally honest. I think today showed me that we've got trouble coming ahead. You know, you take Jimmy Anderson out of that attack today, who none of us thought that he was going to play. There's no Stuart Broad, and potentially you take Jimmy out of that attack today, and that is what England have got. You know, you've got Chris Woakes to come back in, hopefully Jofra Archer, Ben Stokes, Ollie Stone if he comes back. But, you know, we've been
They're all bowlers with bad fitness records that you're mentioning there. Yeah.
We're probably just starting to see the kind of prominence of Broad and Anderson, of how great they are. And you take Jimmy Anderson out of that attack today, I'm sorry, the England team just looked okay. They looked okay. Sam Curran had a day. Look, I love Sam Curran. He brings so much energy and buzz to any format, but I thought he bowled today a little bit like a schoolboy. You know, I thought it was so obvious the way that he was bowling. It was just too easy for the Indian batters. It was just, all right, I'll just swing one back into the pads and get you out LBW. That doesn't happen against quality. You've got to set the batters up. You've got to go across, and it might be that, you know, the second or third over you get one whipping back into the pads. You know, Mark Wood, you know what you're going to get, and it's not the kind of pitch that you'd want Mark Wood on.
But it's not, is it? I mean,
it's slow, it's
very
turgid,
slow.
and it's just not flown through that we may have expected. So, yeah, I mean, Ollie Robinson, you know, quality, you know what you get in line and length. But I just thought today was a little bit of a, what's coming? It was a bit of a warning sign.
It's interesting, Deep, because we obviously focus a lot on England's batting, the top three. Cheteshwar Pujara, discuss. I mean, he just looks like a man whose head's on the block, and but he's always put it there himself.
True. I mean, the way he's batting, I mean, we've mentioned this on air as well. It's just that it just seems to be pushing at everything, and that's not him. I mean, at his peak as well, he wasn't batting the way he did, or he wasn't striking, at a very high rate. So it's strike rate is not his issue, but it seems that he's thinking about it. And that's where he's getting into this really, really bad place now. Because ideally speaking, I mean, if you look at Pujara and when he's batting really well, you'd see soft hands. Even if you see those edges, chances are they won't carry to the slip. But right through the innings, small as it was, it just seemed like he was pushing at almost everything. And not just that, I mean, he was... there wasn't, I guess, just one delivery. There was a dead defence. Apart from that, everything was a bit of a push there from him. And that's not him.
Given that Kohli has talked about the pace that he wants India to go at, can you see an Indian side with Rahul and Pujara at 2 and 3? If Rahul's going to continue batting in this mode when he's opening, I mean, that's even more pressure on Pujara, isn't it?
I won't be worried about Rahul, to be honest, because he's got the gears. He knows when to shift gears. I mean, he's got the game. He's a complete batsman. He's a versatile batsman. So I won't be worried about KL Rahul. But what I'm worried about Pujara is that he's trying to bat like someone else. I mean, he's played 87 test matches the way he has so far. And suddenly, after 87 test matches, it's very difficult to, teach an old dog a new trick.
Yes.
So, and that's what he's trying to do. And that's a concern for me. Pujara, just leave him alone the way he bats. If he's not getting runs, that is an issue. That's a concern, that he's not getting runs, not his strike rate.
There's something got into his head, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, he's absolutely right, Deep, that Pujara just looks like he's got tension. You know, and it just shows you, doesn't it, when you're a little bit of a question mark for your place in the side. Doesn't matter how many test matches you've played, you know, and you're suddenly not in the greatest of form. You do take tension out to the middle, and those edges do start to carry. So I agree. I think he has to go back to playing the way that he plays, which is the old-fashioned way, time, attritional, and that's the way that he's had the most success. I'm just looking at Rishabh Pant. He's having a few throwdowns this evening. He's ready. He's itching to get out there tomorrow.
Well, he'll be in there next. Yeah, and I mean, England tomorrow, I mean, for a start with the ball, but then, you know, sort of pressure on the bat. I mean, that's where it's really going to
Well,
show,
I think today, Aggers, what I've loved about it is that for so long in international cricket and this modern game, we've heard it's about the numbers, and it's about, you can play in different ways and you can play with different techniques. Steve Smith, he plays in an unorthodox fashion. It works, so you don't have to play the technical way. Today told me that you had to play the technical way. Your technique gets you out of a position of difficulty when you're out in the middle. Your technique will allow you to survive when the ball's moving around like it was in the morning session. And I will just say to any kids that are listening, just go and watch the way KL Rahul and Rohit Sharma played those initial 20 overs with pure technique. It was technique, it was balance, it was foot movement. And I think at the end of the match, I'll say it now, I just wonder whether we'll be highlighting KL Rahul's technique against some of England's batters' techniques and the moving parts, which are a very unorthodox kind of movement. I like simplicity. Joe Root got back to simplicity at Nottingham, facing the seamers. It worked for him. Today we saw Rohit Sharma. Virat, for a small, I don't think he got into his best form, but who's still on the release of the ball. And in particular, KL Rahul. That was a masterclass in how to open the batting in Test match cricket.
Just briefly, it's a big day tomorrow for England.
It's a huge day. I mean, they've got to get the wickets, and then it's about batting, and that's been England's downfall over the last year or so in Test match cricket. And
a chance for India to really build that huge platform.
Absolutely, yes. I mean, build up that advantage that they already have after day one. But then, at the end of the day, 2 quick wickets and could be a different story then.
Thanks to Deep and to Michael. Let's get some reaction then. Alison Mitchell has been speaking to Rohit Sharma, but first, Ollie Robinson.
Ollie, is that fair to say that was a tougher day in the field than you hoped for, having put India in?
Yeah, definitely. Saw how green the pitch was this morning, and I think everyone here felt like win the toss bowl. We toured hard, and fair play to KL, he batted really well.
Is there a point where you do have to give credit to the opposition for toughing it out?
I think so. I think Rohit and KL started off really patiently. We bowled in good areas. And they left well, and the Knicks didn't come today. On a different day, they could have been 2 or 3 down early. They played well.
Is it easy to sometimes get downcast in the field when the captain's made a decision to field first and then you just see the runs piling up and no wickets?
I don't think so. We always felt like we held the rate quite well. So we knew that if we could put a couple on it could change and be our day. Same for the morning. If we can get a couple early ones in the morning, it's still pretty even, I'd say.
And for yourself, getting the wicket of Virat Kohli, how pleased are you with that?
Yeah, very pleased. It's probably my biggest wicket to date, so very happy with that.
I think you celebrated it with a lot of gusto as well.
Yeah.
Did you feel sort of extra responsibility? You've obviously been taking the new ball, but with no Stuart Broad in the side, missing a real senior bowler.
Yeah, it's always tough when a senior bowler goes down. Broady and Jimmy between them have got over 1,000 wickets, so it's a huge loss, but as a 4 we bowled well today, and we'll take that responsibility.
And James Anderson was told that his scan was clear. Did he show any signs of niggle or any doubt on the morning of the game?
No, he's absolutely fine. He declared himself fit, and he's absolutely fine. I think he's bowled 22 overs there, and it's same old Jimmy, just very good.
Where do you see the game going from here then, going into day 2?
We just need early wickets in the morning. If we can get KL and Rahane out early, they've got quite a long tail, so 5-6 down early and we're still in the game.
Well done, Ollie. Thanks very much.
You.
Rohit, well batted today. How testing were conditions at the start of the day?
Yeah, it was quite a bit initially to start with. There was some softness in the pitch and the overcast conditions as well. But I thought we showed great batsmanship today. Wasn't easy, as we all saw. But, credit goes to KL Rahul to getting that brilliant 100 on that pitch. Was never going to be easy. But he held on to it and got us to a comfortable position at the end of the day.
Yeah, how would you describe your partnership and the way the balance shifted, I suppose, when you were together and then after you got out for him?
Yeah, I mean, look, we haven't batted much in Test cricket especially. In Trent was our first time we ever opened the innings in Test cricket. But we understand each other's game really well. And it's very important when you bat together, you complement each other really well. And that is something that we have done really well in the first game, and even here today. To get that 100-odd run partnership was very crucial from the team's point of view. We always know when you put into bat, you need to get off to a good start, and that is something that we take a lot of pride in. We played really well to start with, and then finished off the day really well, except that wicket of Virat towards the end.
I know Virat said that he also would have bowled first given the choice today, but all in all, he must be very pleased with the way the day is.
Yeah, very pleased. We wanted to bowl, yes. Like I said, there was some softness in the pitch, and we want to exploit that conditions, and we wanted to put their batters under pressure against the new ball. But nevertheless, we were put to bat, and we showed great character. With the new ball, we respected the conditions, and then once we got off to a decent start, then we wanted to capitalize on that.
And not to focus on a negative, but when you were dismissed, you looked so gutted to have missed out on 100.
Yeah, I was disappointed when you bat for that long. You want to get as many runs as possible. I thought I was set, but again, the ball that I got out, I don't think I went and watched quite a few replays of that, how I got out. I don't think I could have done anything to that. But yeah, I mean, overall from the team's perspective, I think we are in good position. Hopefully we can seize the day tomorrow as well.
Thanks very much, Rohit. Well batted.
Thank you.
From 5 Live Sport, this is the TMS Podcast.
Well, there are plenty of talking points in the cricketing world at the moment, with doubts over the Ashes, the introduction of the 100, concerns over player welfare after Ben Stokes decided to take some time out of the game. And at tea, I spoke to the ECB Chief Executive Tom Harrison, who was at least pleased to see Lords looking almost back to normal this week.
Yeah, it feels that way, doesn't it? I mean, under the surface, obviously, there's a huge amount that's different, and a huge amount that every day, the processes and procedures we have to go through to keep everybody fit and healthy. Those are underlying everything that's going on that you see in front of you. But walking around the ground and seeing the joy on people's faces to be back at Lords, back at HQ, and watching a Test match, there's nothing better.
Yeah. As far as the players are concerned, has anything changed since Ben Stokes' withdrawal? Which I think, you can speak for yourself, obviously, but I think took a lot of people by surprise that Stokes should drop out. I mean, A, was that the case? Were you surprised by that? And B, has it made you focus more on the players' welfare?
Well, I think we've been on this for a long time now. I think right the way through COVID, and indeed before COVID, players' mental well-being and is as much a part of their ability to perform on the big stage as their physical well-being. So our whole approach to this has changed dramatically, I think, over the course of the last 18 months. We're now working with a group called Changing Minds, who have got a semi-permanent place in the dressing room, so that we're always getting ahead of issues, I think, when they're being raised. And the issue with Ben, obviously,
so psychologists, is it?
Yeah, well, it's more than that. It's a specialist organisation that help us with monitoring and players' mental well-being. And we committed to doing this and to putting that position in place over the course of last year. Post the bubble season, which was 2020, the biosecure season that was last year. But I think, look, it's really hard to underestimate the impact on COVID on high performance environments. It is stressful enough playing for England in Test matches and ODIs and international T20s. Only to then, at the end of a day's play, go into another kind of anxiety-inducing environment, which is a biosecure bubble. And, we've been acutely aware of this and trying to manage player workloads and ensure that players are given that ability to mentally refresh. And when you take the stress and strains that Ben's been under for an extended period, not just through COVID, but obviously through the loss of his father late last year, and a number of other, just a huge amount of pressure on him. It's, I think, to his great credit that he was able to say, do you know what, this is a good time for a break. And when we welcome Ben back into the environment, we want Ben feeling mentally and physically able to perform at his best, as his brilliant best, which is and he's such a feature of every one of our teams, no matter what the format. So let's hope he is able to rest and get back soon.
Are you in contact with him? I mean, do you know how it's getting on?
It won't be. Look, I mean, I think it's a question of giving Ben a bit of time now, actually. But yes, there's contact through the dressing room, through the right channels. Ben is a fundamental part of the English cricket fabric, and we're obviously can't wait for him to get back and be fit for when he's good and ready.
What's happening with Australia, Tom? I mean, there's so much conversation going on. I don't know how accurate it all is, but I mean, the Ashes being postponed and so on, we've been reading about. What's your reading of the current situation there?
Well, look, it is a moving feast. I think ultimately we're looking forward to going to Australia in November and competing for the Ashes. There are a few conversations that need to happen before that for us to to be absolutely confident that that the conditions under which both players and their families can be in Australia are understood and taken care of.
And you say and families, so I mean you are resolute in that the players' families should be able to go.
Yeah, I think that's right, and I think it's not unreasonable for players to make that request. It's not just players; it's staff and management as well, who are going out for an extended period over Christmas and New Year. That is a time where people need to be with their families, and the world has changed in this respect over the last few years. And look, the right conversations are happening with Cricket Australia, and we're working with them very closely. I had my latest conversation with my counterpart in Melbourne a couple of days ago, yesterday morning. We will be talking this through. I think they have got excellent connections with the right people at government, and the conversations are happening. But it's not an easy topic, as you will be aware.
You said request. Is it a request or a demand? There is a difference.
Well, I think it's not an adversarial conversation.
Right.
This is something that we're doing in partnership, and I think at the moment everybody understands each other's perspective. So let's see how we go. We've got a long way to go in this conversation. I am, by nature an optimist. I think you need to be in this job.
Yes,
but I'm very hopeful that we'll get families out there and in conditions which can ensure they have an enjoyable experience in Australia.
Let's talk about this season. There's so much cricket going on, and the 100. I know you'll want to talk about that. I want to talk first of all about the scheduling.
Yep.
And the Test cricketers and the preparation that they are getting. Those who are playing, Moeen Ali, who wasn't playing, called in. Are you happy with the way that the season is scheduled at the moment? That the Test cricketers are best prepared to go out and play Test cricket at their best, and therefore doing Test cricket justice?
Look, I don't think anybody is comfortable with the schedule, and I mean that from players, administrators, county administrators, medical staff, physios. But it is a giant compromise that effectively is a piece of work that's undertaken by the game, not just by the ECB. It's not a few people, putting blocks in holes and saying, well, we'll play these then and that. It's a much more complicated kind of three-dimensional Rubik's Cube of compromises and priorities that go into creating the season schedule. Look,
well, that's the key word, priority, isn't it? I mean, where on your list does Test cricket come this season and probably next? What priority is Test cricket?
Well, I think priority of Test cricket is absolutely at the top. And let's be clear about the reason why preparation this year has been more compromised, I think, than in previous years, but it's never perfect. I mean, you can look at an early June start to a normal summer of Test cricket, which is a week after players have arrived back, multi-format players, which is a good proportion of our Test team when we've got our first team at full strength. A good proportion of those players will not have played a round of first-class cricket before going into the Test arena. So this is not new territory for us. It feels new because we're starting a Test series in August, a fantastic, iconic Test series in August against a team who recently competed in the World Test Championship final. So it does feel like the preparation hasn't been ideal, but we actually have had 12 rounds of first-class cricket this year. We've had 2 rounds in July, which last year we didn't have. And the thing which I think, again, being here at a full House of Lords, that we can easily overlook is the impact of COVID. We cancelled, very sadly, the India A tour that was due to come out and help prepare the Indian team, but also the England teams for preparation into the Test series this summer. And the reason we did that is because of the risk associated with the different protocols at domestic and international level that are in place to keep people safe. So the international level protocols are very different. They're more stringent. And if you've spoken to county professionals, then many of them are spending, obviously staying at home and coming in every day, doing lateral flow tests and making sure that they are COVID-free. But by and large, it's a much more relaxed existence at domestic level. So trying to fit that together on top of having Pakistan, Sri Lanka, India women, India men, New Zealand women, 1,600 teams. And it felt like a really bad idea, actually, to put that amount of risk. And the compromise, obviously, as a result, is both teams are a little undercooked coming into this Test series.
Right. But is that going to change? I mean, that's the thing, because it just seems to me that Test cricket is looking vulnerable at the moment, and not just here, but everywhere. There is this clearly a big move for one-day cricket, and particularly the short form of the game. And I don't know. It's your time as administrators. It's your generation really that will be responsible for the future of Test cricket.
Yeah.
And what happens to it. And do you feel that there is that commitment to preserving and enhancing Test cricket and giving it the investment and the time and the care that it needs to flourish, just as much as the one-day games are currently getting?
As I do, and I don't think there's any sense of downplaying the importance of Test cricket. Certainly it's the as I've said before, Rahul Dravid used to have this the simile of cricket being a great big oak tree, and the trunk of that tree and its roots are Test cricket and everything that Test cricket brings to us. And that is well understood through the ECB board. It's well understood through the game in this country. And the reflection of this is, full houses, proper investment through central contracts, a real commitment to enable red ball specialists to be able to earn a similar living to those guys who are playing all the international white ball competitions that are very lucrative in some cases. So I don't think there's any sense that we're downplaying Test cricket in any way. And actually, my own strong view, and this has been my view from the outset, is that the 100 will be good for Test cricket. It will be great for providing a following for Test cricket.
As long as Test cricket's still alive, though. As long as Test cricket's still going, that's the question. And 5-day Test cricket, not 4. Yeah,
and I agree with that too. And I think, look, ultimately, we've been having this debate about Test cricket for 20 years, and from every measure that you want to throw at it for cricket in this country, which is the thing that currently, effectively I'm responsible for, the portents are very good. The viewing figures are going through the roof. The crowd attendances and spectators are absolutely, you can't get a ticket for this Test series. The digital following is absolutely enormous. And you can take that into 4-day championship cricket, and you can see a similar, very positive set of criteria and measures around the April and May rounds of championship cricket, where championship cricket had this ability to dominate the schedule for once. And it was fantastic to see.
It was freezing cold, though. I mean, in terms of being,
it was dry.
Yeah, it was dry. But in terms of actually doing very much as far as the players were concerned, preparing with Test cricket, I mean, it wasn't really fit for purpose, was it? It was championship cricket, but it was.
Well, again, Aggers, we can look at the climate change data on this, and I can take you through this. I'm not sure you can't wait.
It's not time for that, unfortunately.
But April and May are becoming some of the driest months that are in our summer, and actually the data is telling us that July and August are becoming wetter.
But playing then isn't relevant to playing Test cricket in June, July and August.
Well, which is why we put those 2 rounds in the July window, and unfortunately why we lost potential fixtures which would have given some of the players a better run into the first Test. Because of COVID, as I've explained, which is it is hard to ignore that, because it has been a really important part of this summer.
So next season, will there be more opportunity for England's Test cricketers to be prepared and to have people who are out of form to get some form, not thrashing the ball around, but actually playing championship cricket? I mean, can you make any sort of pledge like that?
Well, we're looking at it right now. So yesterday we had a meeting of the professional game group, which is a group of stakeholders, including many counties. There are 4 counties represented on that group, the PCA, and our kind of our genius magicians who put the schedule together, who you know very well. And we are debating and discussing right now what next season looks like. And with the Commonwealth Games in the middle of the summer next year, it's another complicated one. We don't have an ICC global event in our window next year, but the Commonwealth Games is that opportunity for the women's game, certainly, to again reach new audiences. And hasn't the women's game had a brilliant year this year, despite all the challenges?
Absolutely, and that I mean, above anything else, I'd have thought would what be really pleased about the 100, wouldn't it? The fact that people are watching women's cricket and they're really enjoying it, and hopefully going to take it up as a result. I mean, it is spreading the word.
It is, and look, it's fantastic cricket. It's brilliant entertainment. We've smashed the domestic record for attendance at women's games 2 or 3 times through this summer. We've also got the regional structure, which is providing professional opportunities for women and girls to take up cricket as a profession and give them a proper pathway to becoming international cricketers. We're looking forward to watching the growth of the women's game as well. But look, I mean, I think whichever way you look, the 100 is going to be a good thing for cricket in this country. It's going to be good for county cricket. It's going to be good for international cricket as well, and Test cricket absolutely above all, because once people discover this game and discover the beauty of it, it's very hard to prevent people from seeing the beauty that is Test cricket in all its glory. And we're seeing it being played out in front of us now.
And you think there is room for all of it? There is room for the 100. There is room for the blast. There is room for the 50 overs cricket, which is happening quietly in the background at the moment. And there is room for championship cricket at the right sort of a time. All that can happen.
It can happen. Of course it can, because people care about it and it has a role to play. We maybe have to look very hard at the structure of our competitions. We need a better relationship between the Vitality Blast and the 100. We need that relationship to work better, and we're working on that at the moment.
How can that do?
Well, I think providing opportunities for players through a post or mid-blast season through a draft into the 100, but just to work on that link, I think, is really important, particularly for the counties that are not hosting 100 matches. That's a really important thing that we're going to be spending a lot of time thinking about. And the One Day Cup, you mentioned it briefly. Look, that's been fantastic for giving players who don't normally get an opportunity to shine to come through and show what they can do. Dare I say it, there has been a tendency for counties to be reluctant to pick, wild card young players, maverick players who come from the leagues or come from straight out of, school sometimes to play cricket. Some young guys and girls are getting opportunities to do this, and we should welcome that and celebrate it.
And as far as the numbers for the 100 are concerned, you said, I think you went wild in your targets to start with. I think you knew it was going to be a fairly slow, or could be a fairly slow process. And how is that shaping up now? Oh,
I think we've blown away our expectations. At pretty much any measure you want to level at it, whether that's viewing figures or attendance figures. We've got nearly 11 million people who have had a look, have seen the 100 in one way, shape or form this year. We've sold over 500,000 tickets. We're at sort of over 90% capacity, which is way beyond what we set out to achieve. That's the COVID. In Wales, we can't sell more than 4,500 tickets for Cardiff fixtures because of COVID restrictions there. So, look, I think we're very pleased with it. It's early days, and we're not going to get carried away. It's not the be-all and end-all. It has a role to play in our pantheon of cricket competitions, but it augurs well for growth in the game at the base, which is what it's set out to achieve.
And I'm still getting lots of people from the southwest saying, "What's going on? Who do we support? Is expansion a possibility?"
I think it is a possibility, and I have felt for a long time that situation in the southwest is not ideal, and it's something that we're working very hard on, and we will continue to do that. But right now, we're just concentrating on making sure that all our competitions are successful this year. We need to get through COVID. It's been unbelievably challenging. We've got very tired people out there at every level, whether you're a player, whether you're working in the performance environment, or whether you're an administrator. There's a lot of fatigue, and we need to give people a chance to rest. And
one of the main aims of the 100 was to attract a more diverse audience. And is that breaking through? I think you can see that in stadia, and particularly with the younger demographic. Certainly more diverse communities are feeling a sense of belonging with the competition, which is something really important to us. So look, it's early days. As I said, we've still got another 9 or 10 days to go in the 100 for this first year. We'll evaluate everything, but my message to people is please don't worry. We've got so much to celebrate through cricket. We have growth in our sport, which is such an exciting point. We've got massive following for the women's game. We've got massive following for the men's game. So there's an awful lot to celebrate and for us to build on. Quick last question, Tom, before I let you go. The plan had been that for the women to be playing on sort of what I call outground, I dare call Grace Road an outground, but away from the centre. Given that they've been so successful in the double headers this year, I just wonder whether that'll be the case next year, or whether you might be tempted to keep it as it is. Yeah, so look, I think it's been such a successful first season for the women's part of the 100. I think it'd be hard for us to take a retrograde step, if you like, and try and limit capacity crowds for that. So look, it's another one for the review, but I'd be very surprised if we did a U-turn on that. That was the ECB Chief Executive Tom Harrison. You can watch highlights of the play at Lord's on the BBC Sport website and the app, where you'll find much more about the other cricket action taking place. And we're back on air for the second day at Lord's from 10:15.
This is the TMS podcast on England's tour of New Zealand. Hear every ball of every match live with the Test Match Special Team.
You have to get this out of the way, right?
Oh, yeah.
Are you happy to deal with it?
I think it's good that we bring this elephant into the room.
Don't let life get in the way of your favourite podcast. Just connect your smartphone to your car stereo via Bluetooth or cable, and you'll never be left on a cliffhanger again.
I've never seen one of your programs.
I don't feel shocked, but I feel like I should be shocked.
Music, radio, podcasts. Listen to the BBC Sounds app everywhere you go.
This preseason, take football further with NFL Game Pass.
We make plays and we dominate all night long.
Catch every rookie debut with live out-of-market preseason games.
Welcome to the NFL.
See big names in their new homes.
And here comes one. Julio Jones, touchdown.
Plus, get all the action in 45 minutes or less with condensed game replays.
Oh, my goodness.
Take football further with NFL Game Pass. Go to NFL.com/Game Pass to start your free trial today.